Better news than anticipated about the return of Hawkeye quarterback Mark Gronowski. We give you the latest today, Locked On Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. I've been covering the Hawkeyes for over 20 years on the radio here in the state of Iowa, including currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network, where you can hear me each weekday from noon to 2, talking the world of sports and a lot of Hawkeyes with you. It was stations in Des Moines, Sioux City, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, and the Quad Cities. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Today, we hear from Kirk Ferentz, a breakdown of what he had to say, not just at the quarterback position, though that's the biggest. We'll talk about that. And an update of Mark Gronowski and his health. We'll also hear from Elliot Clough. He was over in Iowa City earlier today. Talked to him before the Kirk press conference, but an update on what he heard from the players. We'll get into that with Elliot Clough. And we're also going to talk about the importance of this game against Wisconsin and Iowa needing a victory and just how important it is for this team and maybe for this program. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But let's go to what we heard today from Kirk Ferentz as he was in Iowa City, the weekly press conference. And, we talked a lot yesterday on the show, the depth chart being released and the surprise to many people that Mark Gronowski was listed as the starter at the quarterback spot. Then he got to the backup spot, and not just Hank Brown listed as the backup, but there was an or with Jeremy Hecklinski. So you had that component to it. But let's start with the biggest news, and that was hearing from Kirk today talk about the return of Mark Gronowski, the potential return of him out there after exiting the game with that knee injury against Indiana. Now, he said it was a strain. That terminology was used, but just reading through and listening to Kirk talk about this, I think Kirk Ferentz was a little bit surprised, and maybe it was just the practice here on Tuesday morning and the ability that Mark Gronowski had to bounce back and to practice at the level that he had. Kirk mentioned at one point that he was surprised by it. I think the return is coming quicker than thought. It felt like it was becoming more and more apparent that the thought process during last week and certainly late last week was he was going to miss the Wisconsin game, potentially going to be back for Penn State. Now, I was not out of the woods yet. And depending on what he did at practice on Tuesday, we'll see how he recovers, what that recovery looks like. And for that first time, maybe pushing himself and doing a little bit more on that knee, going through some throws, light jogging, whatever it is. You're never sure how a guy is going to be able to react and recover that first time that they start to push things a little bit more. I do not want to make this sound like Mark Gronowski is surefire going to be the starter on Saturday. He's going to be all back to 100%. Even if he returns to the lineup, I think you also have to put that caveat in there, understanding that this very well could be a limited guy. And, the press corps did a good job, I thought, of kind of pushing things a little bit more and trying to get a little bit more insight. The question was asked a bunch of different times in the players' interviews that happened beforehand. And that was also something I found very interesting, is they're asking a bunch of the guys, trying to get insight, and nobody had answer. Now, we also know that the players, they go through media training. This is part of Iowa football 101 that you go through. When freshmen show up, every single year there's a refresher. These guys are buttoned up. And yes, Kirk Ferentz, you anticipate the head coach, he's not going to slip up, right? You're not going to be able to get one by the old ball coach and try to get him and not answer the way that he wants to answer. But the players are very similar. And it was asked to offensive players. It was asked to defensive players. But nobody slipped up. Nobody made any mistakes. Speaking of maybe making a mistake, Sam Phillips said that it was good to have Reese Vander Zee back out there. Now, we know Kirk Ferentz, right? He does not like these guys, as we just talked about, talking a whole lot, to trading any secrets with the media. And Sam Phillips being a new guy, the transfer from Chattanooga. We'll see if anything comes out of that one, might get a call to the corner office. But that aside, Reese Vander Zee. Now, Kirk also talked about this a little bit, and getting Vander Zee back out there. He said, I don't expect him to light the world on fire. Remember, he's coming off a pretty substantial injury, wasn't able to do any work. And it's not just being able to play through the pain or being, medically cleared in those kind of conversations that you have. Another component to this with a guy like Reese Vander Zee and getting him back out there is just endurance wise. Now, he hasn't been running for weeks now, over a month. He hasn't been out there running. And because of that, you're running wind sprints. Look, you're running routes. You're going up and down the field. You're coming back to the huddle. You're doing all those different things. And that's going to take its toll, even in a guy that is, well, in a lot better shape than almost all of us. Still getting back out there, getting into game shape is a term that's used a whole lot. And I think that is apt, certainly, for Reese Vander Zee. Even if he's out there and able to go this week against Wisconsin, I wouldn't anticipate you see anything more than maybe 15, 20 snaps at most in this game. And that might be even overshooting it. So I think we have to maybe temper our expectations. It would be great to get him back. And with Vander Zee, obviously having kind of that big play guy, he's made some incredible plays early in his career. Go back to Illinois State to begin his career a year ago. What he did against Michigan State. He's had some highlight-worthy plays. We know he is that big-time kind of target that they definitely need to help out this offense. And with some of those smaller guys out there, Sam Phillips, aforementioned, a Jacob Gill, a Seth Anderson, those type of players, they're not those big-body players. Getting Vander Zee, I think, is going to be a help to whoever the quarterback turns out to be on Saturday. One more quote from Kirk Ferentz. He had this to say, "So far, so good." I'm talking about Gronowski. He's gotten some good work in. Last week, it didn't look so optimistic, but we'll take it as it goes this week. Right now, we're working all three of the guys. He worked well today, so we'll see how it goes as we go along here, unquote. That's from Kirk Ferentz today during the press conference. I think it says a lot. And we're trending now in the direction that Mark Gronowski is going to be out there. What he's going to look like, still to be seen. As mentioned, things could go wrong. Things could swell up. It could change. But I am reading things. I'm reading the situation now as Mark Gronowski is going to be available and ready to go. Also, another component to this, you have to have these backups ready. I mean, we're dealing with a knee injury here. Have to have these guys ready to go. And the bye week, because of that, came at an incredibly, just an absolute perfect time for this to play out for Iowa. You were able to get Jeremy Hecklinski more involved. Obviously, Hank Brown's been taking reps as the backup, but now you get more acclimated with Hecklinski. And having those guys ready to go against a Wisconsin team, it's going to be tough to run the football. That was another thing that Kirk talked about in this game. Wisconsin, for all the warts that they have and the offensive issues and still trying to figure out a quarterback, and they've had their own injuries at the quarterback position this year, you still know that Wisconsin, it's going to be tough to run the football against them. These players know. Herkett talked a little bit about it, that they know last year Iowa putting 42 on them, and they, during the offseason, Wisconsin was doing 42 push-ups and trying to, this is going to be a payback game. Badgers are going to be ready to go. They hung around against Michigan last week. And if you think this is going to be a pushover, I got different news for you. Doesn't mean Iowa couldn't win and win decidedly, because we saw it just a year ago. But to think this is going to be an easy one, I think you're maybe setting yourself up for disappointment if that's your expectation going into that game. One final note, it's in the middle of the defense, the middle linebacker. And it looks like it will be Jaden Montgomery will get the start here. His dad, Big Jerry Montgomery, was a guy in the early days of Kirk Ferentz, went on to have a good career in the coaching world as well. And a guy that I know a lot of people inside the locker room are rooting for. Is a guy that is well-respected, put in the work. He's undersized. He's not tall. It's all right. Short guys can play middle linebacker. We're not talking about having to be out wide, right? You can be little and do a good job. And we'll see Montgomery. He'll get a shot after Harrell's injury is going to keep him out this week in the middle. We've talked also about maybe moving some guys around. So there's a lot out there, but that is the latest on that front and some updates for you from the Kirk Ferentz press conference. So let's go a little bit deeper. Elliot Clough, he was over there. We'll hear from him. Elliot was there. This is a conversation we had before Kirk talked and after he talked to a bunch of the players. So we'll get the latest from Elliot Clough from Iowa City and the press conference day on a Tuesday. We continue. Elliot Clough joins us, a breakdown of what's happening in Iowa City with the football team as we continue Locked On Hawkeyes. This episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, you being right is actually going to get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add a little bit more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections, like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. It's quick, easy. You can set your lineup in under a minute. And my favorite part, Prize Picks just added stacks. So I want to ride with a player. I can select their pass yards, their rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. Love that with the new stacks feature. Plus, it's fun to follow along and other players. You can get them in the app, copy their lineups and different people that you know, and their lineups, you can copy them with one click. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right.
Here's Elliot Clough, HawkeyeInsider.com, part of 24/7 Sports. He's sequestered in Iowa City, listening to some of the players that they've met the media. Elliot, Trent, and Ken, thanks for coming on. How are things in Iowa City?
They're good, Ken. No quarterbacks today.
Yeah.
Didn't get a whole lot from the players, but we're rolling. We'll assuming we'll get more of a verdict on quarterbacks from Kirk Ferentz in, like you said, about an hour and 10 minutes, but we'll see. I would not be surprised if it's we'll play it by ear and day to day, and we don't get a whole lot of anything, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's kind of how Trent and I were talking about it earlier, because you usually get Gronowski, correct? He's usually part of these things, and when he didn't show, it leaves us to speculate, and that's what Trent and I do, and we speculate that he's not going to go, but we'll see. We don't know.
What are you hearing right now, Elliot? Is it what's just been kind of out there, the day-to-day type of thing?
Yeah, it's more or less what was out there, what our Matt Zenitz at CBS Sports reported. I think it was over the weekend or last week at some point, just that it is day to day, that it is week to week right now. I think all we can really do is speculate. I personally, that's where I'm at, reading between the lines. I think it'll be Hank Brown this weekend, but like we've said, we'll find out more and learn more as we go. But I mean, I don't know if the people in the building really know what's going to be happening this weekend, just because of the uncertainty around the injury.
Taking that a step further, it was, I thought, eye-opening. Depth charts released. All right, Gronowski's on there. But then we see Hank Brown or Jeremy Hecklinski. So let's take that a step further.
Because Hecklinski's not been listed.
Right. He has not been on the depth chart. Now he is. What did you read into that part of it, seeing the Wake Forest transfer listed for the first time?
Yeah, I think it's Iowa, a little bit of gamesmanship from the Hawkeyes. I think it's more of a situation where when you're looking at that, you think, okay, to me, what that was we're going to make Wisconsin prepare for anybody and everybody that they could possibly face. It's Mark Gronowski could go, he might go. Let's make him prepare as if he has to go. But in which case, I think Hank Brown is clearly QB2. But they've been talking about Hecklinski, and every time we hear Tim Lester speak of Hecklinski, he's a little ball player now, and I've heard a little bit of that from behind the scenes too. And he's got Hecklinski has a little bit of that moxie, that Drew Tate ability to make a playoff script. He I wouldn't say he's obviously not the most physically imposing specimen of a quarterback, but his ability to just kind of whip a ball in there, put it exactly where it needs to go, and make some really interesting and positive throws is just fun. And when was the last time Iowa had a fun quarterback? Probably C.J. Beathard. And if you want to go back to Drew Tate. But I think it's an indication that Kirk has really spoken highly of Hecklinski too. They really like what they've seen from him, and it's just another opportunity to keep Wisconsin guessing ahead of a game that they've had circled pretty much this entire offseason.
And yet we have that look at the depth chart from the offensive side, but on the defensive side, Harrell is not listed. So what do we read into that?
Well, he did miss, I think, part of one of the final drives against Indiana. So to me, it's just an injury thing. He ended up getting back on the field, if I remember correctly, after he left for a series or two. And I would assume it's just a situation where he needs to get right. And the weird thing about that too, to me, Ken, is that they listed Jackson Rexroth as the backup Mike, which is interesting. I think if there's any real change, what's going to happen is Jaden Montgomery might very well get to go. He's a little bit smaller than what I would like to have at the Mike, but there's a real possibility that Carson Shire moves over to the Mike. Jackson Rexroth plays the will, and maybe we see a Montgomery, a Landon Van Keekerix, maybe one of the young guys at the Leo. If and when that type of traditional 4-3 defense is out there, I really don't know what we're going to see. I mean, like I said, I've heard a lot of good things about Montgomery from behind the scenes too, but they do like to have a bigger body in the middle. So if I had to guess, I would say Shire starts at the Mike and Rexroth at the will, because somebody told me that Rexroth is actually like 50% of practice during the week. He's at the will. So that would not surprise me. I mean, and Rexroth has probably been the best and the most consistent of the three, which I would not have guessed that this going into this season. But that would be how I would expect them to go. They might run a little bit more 4-2-5 than traditionally, and, even down in the red zone where they might like to go a little bit more 4-3. But that would be my expectation. But, like I said, I could be wrong. They do like Montgomery, so we'll see.
Sam Phillips was part of the scrum. He's become one of their go-to receivers. And on top of it, maybe something that is the most interesting, he was asked about Reese Vander Zee and said, quote, "I'm happy he's back." Reese Vander Zee. Now, we also know Sam Phillips is a transfer. I don't know. He hasn't had the same kind of media training. That's right. If you let the cat out of the bag on that one, and if he's going to have to go to the corner office and have a talking to. But regardless of that, Vander Zee, we knew this was something that they were kind of targeting potentially this week. Take us in a little bit, Sam Phillips, what he had to say and the potential of a return of Vander Zee.
Yeah, I was going to share that quote a little bit. Yeah, David, I got the quote that David got to it on Twitter before I did. But it sounds like he'll be back. Obviously, we'll get the confirmation from Kirk here soon. But man, that would be huge right now. You're probably going to have to go to your backup quarterback, and you get the guy who's probably your most talented receiver, a guy that you can throw a 50-50 ball to and trust that he's going to go get it. Man, getting a 6'4", 215 body. Like, Iowa has Dayton Howard on the roster, and he's made some really good plays this season. But Reese Vander Zee is a different type of athlete. He's bigger, thicker. Like, this is just a guy who is seen as, for frame of reference, Dayton Howard didn't have a single other offer, whereas Reese Vander Zee had offers from Nebraska, Iowa State. I think another Power 4 squeaked in there at one point. But Reese is just a different type of physical specimen. We saw a little bit of that last year with his catch at Michigan State, the 2 touchdowns against Illinois State. This would be massive for a Hank Brown. You trust him a little bit more to go to the air when you have that type of receiver that can go get a pass. And it's not like the receiving corps doesn't have any of that. But Reese Vander Zee is the epitome of it, right? He's the most talented guy, probably the guy who's gotten the most reps with Hank Brown because he was healthy during the spring, because he was healthy for the majority of camp. So, getting Reese back at this point would be huge. You're going to try to establish the run at Wisconsin because they have not been good against the run. But being able to go to the air and when you need to go to the air, it makes it feel a lot better when Reese Vander Zee is out there.
Entringer, I thought it had his best game, maybe as a Hawkeye. I know he missed some tackles, which kept his numbers down, his analytics down a little bit. But man, he had a heck of a game last time out. I think he met with the media today. What did he have to say?
Yeah, so I did not get to go over there and talk to Koen. Dave handled that for us. But I can tell you a quote that I thought was telling and really interesting from Koen, who's in his first year as a captain. In his first year as a starter, he referenced the fact that he is a captain this year and that he got to see Jack Campbell be a captain early on in his career at Iowa, and that every time he sees that he's selected to be a captain for Iowa, he thinks about Jack Campbell being the best leader that he's ever seen or best leader that he's ever been around. So kind of a nice feel-good thing from Koen today, talking about one of the former Iowa linebackers, now, of course, with the Detroit Lions, the Butkus Award winner. Kind of a cool feel-good thing that you get in the middle of the week. But, yeah, I would agree with you, Ken. I think that if he hadn't missed those tackles, that would have been Koen Entringers' coming out party, so to speak, where he establishes himself as one of the best players on the defense. Did lead the team in missed tackles, which I was kind of surprised to see. I mean, that's according to PFF, which isn't always perfect. But, yeah, I mean, he's one of the most versatile defensive backs that Iowa has right now. I think he's a hard hitter. Of course, he had the 2 4th down stops. He's a stud, man. I'm a big Koen Entringer guy. I think he'd be best served by coming back for his senior year, but continuing to put stuff on tape like he has. He's an NFL guy, in my opinion, whether that's special teams, practice squad, or seeing a spot in the 53-man roster, maybe seeing the field. He's an NFL guy, in my opinion.
Wasn't it him, Trent, that made that play as a freshman on special teams when
against
he fell
Michigan,
down?
Big Ten championship game.
Unbelievable play. Yeah.
And has only started 6 games in his career.
That's wild.
Yeah. Only 1 star coming into this season. Final thing for me, Elliot, running back. I know you heard from Nathan McNeil, the freshman out of Tampa, who has been certainly really good. Xavier Williams back on the depth chart. Kamari Moulton's dealt with that shoulder injury, gutted it out the last couple of weeks. This feels like if it's going to be Hank Brown, Hecklinski, whoever, you want to rely on the run game a whole lot more. How does it shake out? How does the running back look now with Williams back in the mix?
What I would expect is that Kamari Moulton still gets the bulk of the carries. Xavier Williams plays that complementary role, and we still see a little bit of Nathan McNeil. We won't see as much as we did of him against Indiana, but I would expect Xavier Williams to come back and be a fixture in the rotation, as well as Kamari Moulton being the guy. He's still RB1. Like, if there's anything that we've learned in the last 2 weeks, it's that Kamari Moulton is the most talented back, the most experienced, the most all-around back that you have on your roster. But, man, getting Xavier Williams back to run between the tackles is massive. To get a guy that can, punch you in the face, but is also really patient as a runner between the tackles, really lets the blocks develop. That's huge, man. And also to have a Nathan McNeil, who is more of that, electrifying type of playmaker that can really make plays in space. I think that's how it shakes out. It'll probably be those guys. Obviously, we don't know what's going on if TJ Washington is fully healthy right now. I think he left the game against Indiana. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. Yeah, and then Jazz Patterson not on the depth chart again this week. So it'll probably be a healthy dose of those 3 guys against a rush defense that has struggled.
Elliot Clough, HawkeyeInsider.com, part of 24/7 Sports. Elliot, appreciate what you do for Trent and I on Tuesday. Really do. I will try and run you down next week if your schedule allows. Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Yep, good to talk to you, Elliot Clough.
Good stuff from Elliot. As always, boots on the ground over there in Iowa City as we update Press Conference Tuesday to get ready for the matchup against Wisconsin. Speaking of that matchup with the Badgers, we will break it down throughout the week here as we get closer and closer to kickoff. But big picture, the importance of this game for the Hawkeyes, what a win can mean, and what I know to some of you means very little. We'll talk about that as we continue Locked On Hawkeyes. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, rivalries, energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping when you get to check out. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Maybe you're looking to get to Camp Randall this weekend, making it to Madison for the night game with the Hawkeyes there. Game Time has you covered. Or you're looking to that great home slate at Kinnick Stadium. You want deals for the Penn State game, the Oregon game, the Gophers coming to time for the Battle of Rosedale, all there on the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. I love the Game Time app because I have an opportunity to go there and actually know what I'm going to pay. How frustrating is it? You think you have a great deal, then you get to check out all these fees added on, all the different things, and suddenly the price is double than what you thought. Not the case with Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Today's episode is also brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that Make the neighborhood, the places that become part of your home, whether it's a sports bar. I love the sound of that one. Dedicated to the Hawkeye fan base, the spot with the best wings, or that local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. I love some of the great businesses when I make my way to Iowa City. And one of the must-stop stops that we have to have when we go to Iowa City with the family is the Iowa Hawk Shop. Along with the University Bookstore at the University of Iowa, that is one of the many places that use Square. Maybe it's a sweet treat. Oh yeah, the kids love that. Hertz Donut Company, all on Square. Those are the places that make the community exactly what you're looking for. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnCollege to learn more. Square.com/go/LockedOnCollege. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy that you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Well, as we look at this game, it is Iowa coming in with a 3-2 record. Disappointing. We know Wisconsin has an incredibly difficult schedule still in front of them, and they probably look at this as this is going to be maybe one of their few chances of actually getting a win. But, big picture, keeping Wisconsin down, for Iowa, and that pecking order in the mid-tier of the Big Ten. Iowa's won 3 out of the last 4 in this series. Last year, the 42-10 win. Doing it with Deacon a couple of years back somehow in Madison, 15-6. Iowa has regained control in this series, and we know the frustrations, starting in 2010. Hawkeye fans, you remember the fake punt, 31-30, and after that one, Wisconsin won 7 out of 8 in the series, and they kind of took what Iowa had for a really long time in this series. The long winning streak, another place that I grew up, where that's what Iowa does. They beat Wisconsin before Barry Alvarez got that thing turned around. And even before that, Iowa still had some success. Hayden, he got Barry more times than not before the worm turned, certainly, in that rivalry. This is a great rivalry game. I have family in Madison, grew up going to this game, been to Madison so many times, and this is an important one for me. If you're an everydayer, you've been listening to the show every day, you know my favorite rivalry game. It's Minnesota, where I grew up. Also, family up in the Twin Cities, family that went to Minnesota. So that's always number one. But number 2 on the list is certainly this game. Let's keep it going. Big picture. Keep the hope alive for this season. Keep building. Keep this program afloat of what we've seen and the consistent winner that they are. But also, keep Wisconsin down. Luke Fickell, this very well might be it for him. Don't give him the satisfaction of getting a win against the Hawkeyes on his way out the door. That'll do it for today. Thanks for being with us as always and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Thank you again to you everydayers with us each and every day. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit subscribe. Just takes a moment. Helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. If you're on the podcast side, still looking for more, although 5-star reviews really help us in all the aspects and all the algorithms that are out there and making us what we can do for you every single day. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Todd Brommelkamp will join us on the show. Thanks for being with us as always. We'll talk to you then. Until then, go Hawks.